All of that out there when discussing back length in regards to weight. Why is that important? Because when you are new into the community and you don't know better, you're going to be seeing weight being thrown around as the #1 key contributing factor as to why you should buy a pup from that bloodline. With that being said, I'm going to be honest. Just because a dog is heavier does not mean that it has more breed type. I'm going to say that one more time. Just because a dog is heavier does not mean that it has more breed type. And that is why you can have a dog like what I said before, like Champion, Titanium Tank, compared to this Mastiff, and it's not even close. You're not going to be able to get this having this, and that's just what the reality is. What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Al with the Heavy Hitter Bully Crew, and we are finally back with our last installment of What is Wrong with the XL American Bully Part 4. And in this video, we're going to be covering the proper rear assembly, the stifles, the hocks, and the tail. And with that being said, because I know all of you have been waiting, let's get into the video. So before I even get into the biggest trait that the XL American Bully is missing, first and foremost, I wanted to dive into an issue that I wanted to address in the last video, but it was kind of in between, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna put it in the rear assembly video. So with that being said, as all of you know, if you watch this series, I said that the dog has to be as wide as it is tall. And why is that prevalent in today's video, right? Because we want that proportional look. So when you are breeding for the widest spread, especially if you're pushing the extremities and going to the extreme, which is a common issue that we see in the game today, when this happens, you develop shorter upper arms on the dogs, and that throws off the entirety of the top line naturally, right? And when you have longer legs, immediately the dog has the buttocks in the air. And guess what happens, right? When you have a dog that is extremely stiff, now talking about rear assembly, right? When a dog is extremely stiff, that butt that's in the air is even higher. It kind of looks like a girl that is twerking on the dance floor. And it's just not a good look for the American Bully, especially when we're talking about, you know, breeding for conformation and breed type. And that was an issue that I needed to address before I even get into the biggest trait. So let's get into that. So the biggest trait that the XL American Bully is missing, especially when discussing the proper rear assembly, is the rear mass. And for those of you that are not too familiar with the American Bully breed in its entirety, the dog has to be naturally thick, which means that it has to have muscle mass around the entirety of its body. And what ends up happening is, especially when we are talking about the XLs, when we are talking about the bullier traits, you're going to pull that bulldog mass. Well, unfortunately, with the XLs, we have more of the massive related juice in this class. And when you have this, you end up pulling the mastiff traits, and you end up pulling the weak rears, the dogs that are lacking in the rear muscle. And why am I talking about this? Because it is often misconstrued in our community that the more you feed the dog, the more muscle it's going to have. It's completely incorrect. It is exactly why we have dogs that are huge that look nothing like the American Bully, but because they're up in weight, we glorify them. Well, the thing is, right, when you look at these dogs have no rear muscle. You have to understand, people often misconstrue fat from muscle. It is not in the dog's genetics, especially the massive related juice. It is not in their genetics to get this type of rear. Now, when we are talking about the proper rear, right, I want you to look at XL Grand Champion Chopper. Look at how beefy and thick this boy's rear is. He is actually a great example of the type of muscle mass the XL American Bully is supposed to have. Now, with that being said, now that we covered the biggest trait, let's get into the conformation then. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to be talking about the conformation side now, and we're going to be discussing the stifle. And you heard me mention this earlier in the video on why it's so important, but we're going to discuss it a little bit further more in detail. Now, when talking about the proper leg angulation, you have to understand that in order for your dog to move really, really well and to be able to drive off that rear, there's a lot of components that go into that. And the stifle plays a really, really, really big role, because when you have a dog that is too stiff, you're going to throw off the entirety of the movement. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you, there's two flaws you can work with in this department. It's slightly stiff stifles and over angulation, because you can use it to offset some dogs that address your needs. Now, with that being said, let's get into the next portion. Next up, we're going to be discussing the hocks. And this is a trait that most people don't pay attention to, because most people think that clean and correct means a proper front piece and a straight top line. Well, we have to talk about the completeness of the dog, which means that your dogs have to have the proper rear assembly, which means that their stifles have to be in alignment and their hocks have to be in alignment. And for those of you that are not too familiar, familiar, when a dog gets cowhawked, they may have hip issues. And you have to understand this, when you have a dog that has a very strong rear and they're able to drive off that rear, you have to pay attention to that. That means that that dog has a healthy hip set, right? And when you have a dog that is cowhawked, and I'm talking about severely cowhawked, your dog is gonna be prone to hip issues. Now, if you have a dog that is slightly cowhawked, you do wanna check the hips, but for the most part, this is more so in regards to the dogs that are extremely cowhawked, where you're gonna be dealing with these issues. And for those of you that are not too familiar with this channel, I've discussed this before. When your dog is in the ring, the judge is gonna be able to see where those hawks naturally land, and their natural place is gonna dictate right hip strength. But if you have a dog that is moving too in the rear, this shows a potential weaker hip set. So you have to take notes of these things. So with that being said, that wraps up this trait. Let's get into the next one. Lastly, we have to discuss the tail. And most of you are gonna be like, why are we talking about the tail amongst the American Bully? A tail is supposed to be a tail. Well, unfortunately, we have issues, especially when we're talking about kink tails, gay tails, dock tails, and you know, all of these other flaws that come with this breed. Most importantly, I wanted to talk about the tail, especially as it pertains to the XL, because need y'all to all understand something. A dog that has the nub tail, that is not what the XL American Bully is supposed to have. This is what the proper tail is supposed to look like. And unfortunately, I have to cover that just because, you know, we're touching on the completeness of the dog, right? So with that being said, let's wrap up the video. All right, everybody, so that wraps up the video. Hope that each and every single one of you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, comment, and sub to the channel. Check off the bell notification icon to become part of the family. And with that being said, I hope that this series was able to help you. I hope that we are able to bring this breed and this class into the limelight and really be able to produce better XLs to make it more competitive in the show ring. Now, with that being said, I apologize to each and every single one of you for not being able to get this video out in a timely fashion. I had the opportunity to go to the Peace Love Bully Fest, as all of you saw if you follow me on Instagram and you've seen the YouTube shorts, and I was out there filming and I was just editing those videos and I was putting those together to, you know, showcase my work, because we have some things coming about and some services we're going to be offering soon. So with that being said, that's what I was into, and I wasn't able to get this video out in as timely fashion as I wanted to. So with that being said, once again, thank you to each and every single one of you. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay blessed and enjoy your day.
Speedy, baby.